The autumn in Columbus, Ohio was beautiful like a painting. The trees lining the residential streets of Maple Avenue were dyed in reds and golds, and a cool breeze caressed her cheeks. Michelle Roberts gazed out the kitchen window of her home while wrapping her coffee cup with both hands. She worked as a freelance graphic designer, handling logos and brochures for various companies from a studio she had set up in a corner of her home. "Good morning, beautiful." She turned around at the deep voice from behind to see her husband James coming down the stairs while buttoning his white coat. He worked as an obstetrician at the local general hospital, beloved by his patients for his gentle smile and calm personality. They had been married for 5 years, but they had no children. They had been undergoing fertility treatments for 2 years, but had not been blessed with a child. However, this didn't cast a shadow over their relationship, rather, it deepened their bond as they supported each other. "Will you be late again today?" Michelle asked as she handed James a coffee cup. "Yes, there's a possibility of emergency surgery. But I'll try to come home as early as possible. Caroline and Tom are coming for dinner tonight, right?" Michelle's sister Caroline was a teacher in charge of 3rd graders at the local elementary school, loved by both children and colleagues alike. She had married Tom, a banker, 3 years ago and was currently 8 months pregnant. It was her first pregnancy, and the entire family was eagerly awaiting the birth of the long-awaited baby. "That's right. Caroline's belly has gotten so big lately, even going up and down stairs seems difficult for her. But she looks so happy, just seeing her makes me happy too." Michelle's voice was filled with pure love for her sister. For them, who were continuing fertility treatments, her sister's pregnancy sometimes stirred complex emotions, but both of them genuinely wished for their sister's happiness. Rather, they were grateful that they could experience the joy they couldn't have through their sister. Around 6 in the evening, the doorbell rang. When Michelle opened the door, Caroline was smiling while carefully supporting her belly. Her light brown hair reached her shoulders, and since becoming pregnant, her cheeks had become fuller, enhancing her maternal beauty. Next to her stood Tom with his hand on his wife's shoulder. Tall and kind-eyed, he had the same gentle personality as Caroline and was loved by the entire family. Caroline hugged Michelle with one hand while supporting her belly with the other. "The baby is really active today. I think she's happy to see you both." "Really? Let me feel quickly," Michelle said while placing her hand on her sister's belly. "Oh, she's definitely moving. This child might become a soccer player in the future." When James returned from work, the 4 of them gathered around the dining table. While eating the chicken curry and salad that Michelle had made, Caroline's favorite, the conversation naturally turned to the baby. "Have you decided on a name yet?" James asked. "We don't know the gender yet, so we're thinking Michael for a boy and Emily for a girl," Caroline answered happily. "But Tom wants a different name, don't you?" "I think a more unique name would be nice. But ultimately, Caroline should decide," Tom said while holding his wife's hand. "Have you finished shopping for baby supplies?" Michelle asked, and Caroline looked a little troubled. "Actually, we haven't bought the crib and car seat yet. We don't know which ones are good." "Then let's go shopping together this weekend," Michelle suggested. "James will come with us too, won't you?" "Of course. It'll be my first time choosing baby items, so it'll be educational for me." That weekend, the 4 of them visited a baby supply store. Michelle narrowed her eyes as she selected baby clothes with her sister, picking up the tiny garments. Looking at the soft pastel-colored clothes and cute underwear with animal embroidery made her heart warm. Caroline pushed a stroller to try it out, saying, "Sister, when this child is born, every day will change, won't it? It's scary and exciting at the same time. It'll be fine. You'll be a natural mother. I can tell from watching how you handle the children at school." Michelle gently patted her sister's shoulder. "Besides, we'll always be here to support you." Tom and James were receiving instructions from a store clerk about how to assemble a crib. Both had serious expressions, as if they were choosing a bed for their own child. On the way home, Caroline said,
"Can you imagine making $10,000 a month just from YouTube, all from home? That's exactly what I did with Reddit Stories. No face, no voice. Check the link in the description if you're curious."
In the car, having everyone here is really reassuring. This child will grow up surrounded by so much love. Michelle gazed at her sister's profile visible over her shoulder from the back seat, feeling anew the depth of their family bond. In October, preparations for the baby shower began in earnest. Michelle was working on the invitation design in her home studio. On a watercolor-like background of pastel pink and blue, she was drawing the words, "Welcome little one," in elegant calligraphy. Using her skills as a designer, she was making each one by hand with all her heart. "What do you think?" Michelle showed the completed invitation to James. Her husband examined it carefully while wearing his reading glasses. "It's really lovely. I think Caroline will be delighted. But using both colors since we don't know the gender was the right choice." "That's right. Caroline insists on keeping the gender a secret until the end. She says, I want to keep it as a surprise until birth," Michelle answered with a smile. The next day, Michelle went with Caroline to scout the party venue. The location was a room at the local community center, a bright space with large windows overlooking the garden. Caroline walked slowly around the room while supporting her belly. "Shall we arrange tables here and set up a platform for gifts in that corner?" Michelle suggested while thinking about the room layout. "Thank you so much. I've never had such a big party thrown for me, so I don't know what to do," Caroline said with gratitude. "What are you saying? We're family, aren't we? Besides, your baby is special to us too." That night, Michelle and James were creating the guest list. Including Caroline and Tom's friends, workplace colleagues, and relatives from both families, about 30 people were expected. "Where should we order the cake?" James asked. "Sweet Dreams, the cake shop on Main Street. They promised to make Caroline's favorite lemon cake. We're planning to decorate it with sugar-crafted baby shoes on top." "That's perfect. Caroline has always loved lemon cake since she was little." As preparations progressed, the excitement of the entire family grew. Tom took time from work to buy decorative supplies for the venue. What he chose were materials to create white and cream-colored balloon arches and a beautiful banner that read, "Baby Shower." "Tom, you have great taste," Michelle admired the decorations he brought. "Actually, I consulted with Caroline. She said she wanted something simple and elegant," Tom answered bashfully. "You're such a kind husband. Caroline is lucky to have you." A week before the party, the four of them went on their final shopping trip. Considering Caroline's condition, they chose a shopping mall accessible by car. Having entered the late stages of pregnancy, Caroline's walking had become slower than before, but her expression was always happy. "Are these good for game prizes?" Michelle asked while selecting small candles and hand creams. "Perfect. I think everyone will be pleased," Caroline answered while examining each item. "Look, the baby is moving. She must be enjoying the shopping." James and Tom were selecting drinks and light snacks. "Is 3 types of sandwiches enough?" James confirmed, and Tom replied, "Let's focus on things that pregnant women can safely eat." On the way home, Caroline spoke happily while stroking her belly in the passenger seat. "This child will surely grow up loved by everyone. So many people are waiting for her birth." "Of course. This child will become our treasure," Michelle placed her hand on her sister's shoulder from the back seat. The day before the party, Michelle went to set up the venue early in the morning. Tom and James came to help before work. The 3 of them worked together to arrange tables, line up chairs, and assemble the beautiful balloon arch. "Perfect," Michelle said with satisfaction as she looked around the entire venue. The room decorated with pastel colors was as beautiful as a fairy tale world. "Caroline will be so moved she'll cry when she sees this," Tom smiled, imagining his wife's reaction. That night, the four gathered for a final check. All the invitation replies had been received, and all 30 people were planning to attend. The cake completion notice had come in, and the game preparations were perfect. Tomorrow is finally the day. Caroline couldn't hide her excitement. Having everyone come is truly like a dream. Seeing you so happy makes us happy too. Michelle squeezed her sister's hand. Tomorrow will be the best day. We're really looking forward to it too, James added. I told my patients about it. They all said, it'll be a wonderful baby shower. Dr. James, thank you for always caring for your patients, Caroline said gratefully. I want you to examine my baby in the future too. Of course, I'd be delighted, James answered warmly. That night, Michelle reconfirmed the next day's schedule before going to sleep. Final venue check at 10 a.m., reception starting at 11 a.m., party beginning at noon. Everything was perfectly prepared. Tomorrow will really be a special day, Michelle said to James. Yes. I'm looking forward to seeing how delighted Caroline will be. Thanks to your hard work preparing, I think it'll be a wonderful party. It's the beginning of a new chapter for our family, Michelle said while holding her husband's hand. When this baby is born, our lives will surely change too. But I feel it will change for the better. The next morning was sunny, perfect weather for a party. Michelle arrived at the community center at 8 a.m. and began final preparations. Pastel-colored balloons sparkled beautifully in the autumn sunlight, and the venue was wrapped in a dreamlike atmosphere. Good morning, Michelle, Margaret, the venue manager, called out. Today's a special day, isn't it? Your sister's baby shower. Yes, that's right. The whole family has been preparing for it, Michelle answered proudly while smoothing the last wrinkles from a tablecloth. At 10:30 a.m., Tom arrived with a bouquet. Good morning, Michelle. Caroline is doing her final preparations now. She's really excited. What beautiful flowers. White roses and pale pink gerberas, Caroline's favorites, Michelle said while receiving the bouquet. She'll surely be delighted. At 11 a.m., guests began arriving one after another. Caroline's colleagues, the elementary school teachers, neighborhood friends, and relatives from both families. Everyone carried beautifully wrapped gifts and entered the venue with smiles. Oh, Michelle. The venue is wonderful, Sarah, Caroline's best friend, exclaimed in admiration. It looks like it was prepared by professionals. Thank you. It was worth everyone working together, Michelle answered with satisfaction. Shortly before noon, Caroline arrived. Wearing a light blue maternity dress, she truly looked radiant. Her belly was large and swollen, and her walking was careful, but her face overflowed with pure joy. Caroline looked around the venue and let out a cry of delight. Amazing! It's like a magazine photo. The guests applauded in unison and called out, surprise. Tears welled up in Caroline's eyes. Everyone, thank you so much. For throwing such a wonderful party for me, Caroline greeted with an emotional voice. When the party began, the venue filled with laughter and warm conversation. In the games Michelle had planned, guests enjoyed guessing the prices of baby items and identifying whose childhood photos they were looking at. Caroline sat in a chair throughout, smiling happily. Caroline, how are you feeling? When James arrived, he immediately checked on his sister-in-law. Having rushed straight from the hospital, he was still wearing his white coat. James. Thank you for coming. I'm feeling great. The baby has been really active today too, Caroline answered joyfully. Around 1 p.m., it was time to open gifts. Caroline carefully opened each present, expressing heartfelt gratitude each time. Adorable baby clothes, practical bottle sets, handmade blankets. Each was a gift filled with love. Here's the last present, Michelle placed a specially prepared large box in front of Caroline. This is a gift from the whole family. When Caroline opened the box, it contained parts of a beautiful wooden crib. "Oh my," she exclaimed. "It's the bed we were looking at in the store. Tom and James are planning to assemble it," Michelle smiled. After 2 p.m., Caroline suddenly placed her hand on her belly. "Oh, the baby is moving so much. She must be enjoying today's party." "Really?" Sarah said with interest. "Can I feel?" "Of course," Caroline nodded happily. When Sarah gently placed her hand on the belly, she exclaimed, "Wow, she's really moving." Other guests also showed interest, and Caroline gladly let them feel the baby's movement. Everyone said things like, "What an energetic baby," and "She'll surely be an active child." "You feel too?" Caroline reached out to Michelle. "You've helped the most." Michelle slowly placed her hand on her sister's belly. She certainly felt something moving. "You're right. This child is full of energy." "James, you try too," Caroline said with a smile toward her brother-in-law. "Give us your professional opinion." James approached a little shyly. "Is it okay?" "Of course. You're an obstetrician, so think of it as examining this child," Caroline said jokingly. James carefully placed his hand on Caroline's belly. His initially smiling expression gradually began to change. Wrinkles appeared between his brows, and he moved his hand to different places on the belly. Then he placed his hand back on the same spot again. "How is it?" "Energetic, right?" Caroline asked expectantly. James's face rapidly turned pale. He removed his hand from the belly and stood up, grabbing Michelle's arm. "Let's go outside for a moment," his voice was unusually low and tense. "Huh? Why?" Michelle was confused. "We're in the middle of a party right now," James said in an authoritative tone. His eyes held the most serious expression Michelle had ever seen. "Everyone, excuse us for a moment," Michelle said cheerfully to the guests. "We'll be right back." However, seeing James's expression, Caroline looked anxious. "Is there a problem?" "It's fine, Caroline. We just need to talk about something," Michelle smiled to reassure her sister. James pulled Michelle's hand and hurried outside the venue. When they reached the parking lot outside the community center, he turned around and grabbed Michelle's shoulders. "Call an ambulance. Right now." James's voice was shaking. "What? Why? What happened?" Michelle was confused. "Everyone's enjoying the party. Didn't you notice when you touched your sister's belly?" James's face had turned white as wax. "It was the baby moving, wasn't it?" "It was definitely moving." James took a deep breath. His hands were trembling. Years of experience as a doctor were telling him a terrible truth. "That wasn't." He struggled to continue. "That wasn't the baby moving. The baby is." The moment Michelle heard James's next words, her world collapsed. The scene of beloved family and friends surrounding Caroline and laughing in the beautifully decorated venue instantly turned into a nightmare. Her knees gave way, and she collapsed onto the asphalt of the parking lot. That can't be possible," Michelle whispered. James was already taking out his cell phone. 911. "I need an ambulance. We have a woman who's 8 months pregnant, but there's an abnormality with the fetus. Please come immediately." From the venue, cheerful laughter could still be heard. Caroline's happy voice was mixed in. But now it was painful to see that smile. Michelle couldn't even stand up and just crouched there. The ambulance siren broke through the autumn silence. Emergency personnel hurriedly got out of the ambulance that stopped in front of the community center. James explained the situation to them, showing his medical credentials while giving instructions. 8-month pregnant woman. I believe there's an abnormality with the fetal heartbeat. Please transport her to the hospital immediately." Confused guests emerged from the venue. Caroline was seated in a wheelchair, still unable to understand the situation. What's wrong? Why is there an ambulance? Caroline looked around anxiously. I'm fine. The baby is moving too. It's just a precautionary examination, Michelle answered in a trembling voice while holding her sister's hand. It's okay, it'll surely be okay. Tom stood pale beside his wife. James, what on earth is happening? She was fine just a moment ago. Let's examine everything thoroughly at the hospital, James answered carefully. As a doctor, while suspecting the worst, he couldn't completely abandon hope. When they arrived at the obstetrics ward of St. Mary's General Hospital, Dr. Wilson, James's colleague, was waiting. An experienced obstetrician, he understood the seriousness of the situation from James's expression at a glance. We'll perform an ultrasound examination immediately, Dr. Wilson said quietly. In the examination room, Caroline lay on the examination table. While the technician prepared the ultrasound machine, she stared at the ceiling and murmured. Baby, you're okay, aren't you? Mommy is here. The moment the image appeared on the monitor, the examination room was enveloped in silence. Dr. Wilson carefully studied the screen and repositioned the probe from different angles. After repeating the same action many times, he turned off the machine. Dr. Roberts, let's talk for a moment, Dr. Wilson signaled to James. In the hallway, Dr. Wilson announced in a heavy tone, we cannot confirm a fetal heartbeat. The baby likely died several weeks ago. James leaned against the wall. As a doctor, he had witnessed many sad moments, but when it came to family, he couldn't remain calm. How do I explain this to the family? He muttered. Let's talk together, Dr. Wilson said gently. When they returned to the examination room, Caroline looked at the two doctors with a hopeful expression. Doctor, the baby is fine, right? Dr. Wilson moved a chair to Caroline's bedside and sat down. Mrs. Mitchell, I'm sorry, but... What is it? Caroline's smile gradually disappeared. We were unable to confirm the baby's heartbeat. For a moment, time seemed to stop. Caroline appeared to be trying to understand the doctor's words. No heartbeat. What does that mean? The baby has passed away, Dr. Wilson told her as gently as possible. Caroline shook her head. No, that's wrong. She was moving just a while ago. Everyone felt it. Tom rushed to the bed and took his wife's hand. Caroline. No. Caroline raised her voice. The examination is wrong. The baby is alive. She's moving. Michelle held her sister's other hand while crying. Caroline, listen to what the doctor says. Even you, sister. Caroline shook her head violently. I'm the mother. I know my own baby better than anyone. Dr. Wilson signaled to the nurse and instructed her to retrieve medical records. After a while, the nurse brought an old file. Mrs. Mitchell, there's a record of you being transported to this hospital 2 weeks ago, on October 1st, Dr. Wilson opened the file. It says you fell downstairs and were brought in as an emergency. Tom looked at his wife in surprise. Fell downstairs. I never heard about that. Don't you remember? Dr. Wilson asked Caroline. Caroline looked confused. Stairs? No, that's not. I just slipped a little. It wasn't serious. According to the records at that time, it was confirmed that the fetal heartbeat had stopped, and this was explained to your family. However, you said it was a testing error and left the hospital. That can't be right, Caroline was confused. I haven't had a baby checkup. I thought it wasn't necessary because everything was going well. James read through the records again. Indeed, there was a record dated 2 weeks ago of fetal death diagnosis and explanation to the family. The attending physician's signature was there too. Caroline, Tom said in a trembling voice. Why didn't you tell me? Why did you go through this alone? I'm not hiding anything. Caroline screamed. The baby is alive. She's still moving. Michelle saw tear tracks on her sister's cheeks. Deep sadness and confusion dominated Caroline's heart. She couldn't accept reality and had escaped into a happy world she created in her mind. Caroline, we're here for you, Michelle hugged her sister. You're not alone. Why is everyone lying? Caroline said while crying. Look at my belly. It's big, isn't it? It's big because there's a baby inside. Dr. Wilson quietly explained. In cases of stillbirth, the uterine size can be maintained for a while. The movements you were feeling were likely intestinal movements or muscle spasms. The hospital room was enveloped in heavy silence. Caroline looked at her belly and gently stroked it. But I was supposed to become a mother. You already are a mother, Michelle said while crying. Even if it was for a short time, you were that child's mother. Tom sat beside his wife and wrapped her hand in both of his. I left you alone. I had no idea you were going through such pain by yourself. I was scared. Caroline finally voiced her true feelings. Everyone was looking forward to it so much, I didn't know how to disappoint them. James faced Caroline as both a doctor and brother-in-law. You didn't need to bear this alone. We're family, so we share sadness together too. That night, Caroline was examined by a psychiatrist. It was reality avoidance triggered by extreme stress. The doctor explained that, with proper treatment and support, recovery is possible. The next day, Caroline underwent surgery to remove the stillborn fetus. The small body was already formed and had beautiful features. The family added flowers to a small coffin and quietly said their final goodbye. Caroline faced reality for the first time and shed tears in deep sorrow. 3 months passed. Winter Ohio was covered in snow, and the world was wrapped in silence. Caroline had undergone treatment at a psychiatric hospital and was gradually becoming able to face reality. Daily counseling and family support were healing the wounds in her heart. Sister, one afternoon, Caroline said quietly to Michelle in the hospital lounge. I finally understand. I lost the baby. Michelle held her sister's hand. There was no longer any shadow of reality avoidance in Caroline's eyes. There was deep sadness, but it was a healthy grieving process. You're not alone, Michelle answered tearfully. We'll always be together. Tom came to visit his wife every day without fail. At first, he continued to blame himself, but with the help of a counselor, he was able to focus on supporting his wife. I left you alone, Tom confessed to Caroline one day. When you fell down the stairs, I was on a business trip. You went to the hospital alone and were told alone that you had lost the baby. If I had been there. It's not your fault, Caroline placed her hand on her husband's cheek. I was just scared and couldn't accept reality. But I'm okay now. We can move forward together. James watched his sister-in-law's recovery as both a doctor and family member. Caroline is a strong woman. She'll surely recover, he told Michelle many times. 4 months later in spring, Caroline was discharged. Welcoming her home was a small flower garden that Michelle had planted. They're forget-me-nots, Michelle explained. So we won't forget that child. Caroline knelt in front of the flower garden and touched the small grave marker. It was engraved with, "To our beloved child. Thank you, baby. It was a short time, but you were certainly in my belly," Caroline spoke quietly. About a year later, the couple made a new decision. Caroline, who had returned to elementary school, had come to think anew about the meaning of motherhood through the time she spent with children. We want to adopt a child, Caroline confided to Michelle and James one day. Even without blood relations, love can make a family, you taught me that. That's a wonderful idea, Michelle answered with tears in her eyes. You'll surely be a wonderful family. Tom nodded too. We've learned a lot. We learned that a real family is a relationship where you support each other even in the most difficult times. That autumn, the couple welcomed 5-year-old Michael as their family. On the first night they had dinner together as three, Michael said to Caroline, "Thank you for becoming my mom." Caroline answered while crying, "Thank you for becoming my son." Michelle and James also became Michael's aunt and uncle from that day. A family bond beyond blood relations had been newly formed. 2 years later at Christmas, the expanded family was gathered around the table again. Michael energetically talked about school, and Caroline watched her son's growth. "At that time, I thought the world had ended," Caroline said while looking around at her family. "But it wasn't really the end. It was a new beginning." Michelle deeply nodded at her sister's words. Family was not just about sharing happiness, but about never abandoning each other even in the deepest sorrow and continuing to support each other's broken hearts. They had learned that love means facing even the most painful realities together and continuing to walk forward together. Outside the window, snow continued to fall quietly, but inside the house was filled with warm light and laughter. A new family story was quietly beginning.